It was just another cold October morning when Daniel Harris, a single father from Ohio, was driving his old pickup truck down a quiet country road. The fog was thick, the air smelled of rain, and his mind was lost in thought about how he'd make rent that month. But everything changed when he spotted something strange near the ditch: a smashed patrol car and a woman's arm hanging out of the driver's side window. Daniel slammed the brakes so hard his coffee spilled all over the dashboard. What he found when he ran to that car would not only change his life forever, it would bring an entire police department to tears. Before we dive into this powerful story of courage, faith, and kindness, make sure you hit that button and give this video a if you believe the world needs more good people. And don't forget to comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences with kindness. You're watching where we share real stories that remind us what truly matters. Daniel was 38, a single dad raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Life hadn't been kind lately. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier from cancer, and ever since, Daniel had been doing everything he could to keep things together. He worked long hours as a mechanic, came home exhausted, and still tried to be both mom and dad for Lily. That morning, he was late for work again. His boss had already warned him that one more late arrival could cost him his job. But when he saw that wrecked police cruiser, instinct took over, not logic. He pulled over, jumped out, and ran toward the car. The front end was crushed, the windshield shattered, and smoke was rising from under the hood. Inside was a female officer, barely conscious, her uniform soaked in blood. Her badge read, "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Daniel shouted, trying to open the driver's door. It wouldn't budge. Emily's lips trembled as she whispered something he could barely make out. "Please, help me." Daniel's hands shook, but he didn't hesitate. He grabbed a tire iron from his truck and pried open the door. He didn't know if the car would catch fire, he didn't care. He just knew someone needed him. When he finally pulled Emily out, she gasped, her breathing shallow. Her left leg was twisted badly, and there was blood on her neck. Daniel took off his flannel shirt and pressed it against the wound. "Stay with me," he said, his voice trembling. "I've got you. I'm not leaving." She looked at him weakly and whispered, "Tell my daughter I love her." Daniel's heart clenched. He saw, in that moment, the same kind of fear and love he'd seen in his wife's eyes before she passed, the desperate need to make sure your child knows they're loved, no matter what happens. He pulled out his phone and called 911. The dispatcher told him an ambulance was on the way, but it might take time. So he stayed there, holding Emily's hand, whispering to her that everything was going to be okay, even when he wasn't sure it would be. When the paramedics finally arrived, they rushed Emily to the hospital. Daniel followed behind in his truck, his hands still shaking. He didn't know this woman, but something in his heart told him he couldn't just walk away. At the hospital, the nurses took Emily into emergency surgery. Daniel sat in the waiting room, his clothes covered in blood, his mind racing. He'd already missed work, and he knew there'd be consequences. But none of that mattered. A doctor came out hours later. "She's alive," he said. "If you hadn't stopped, she wouldn't have made it. She lost a lot of blood, but your quick thinking saved her." Daniel sat back in his chair, tears filling his eyes. He hadn't saved anyone since the day he lost his wife. But that night, he realized something: kindness doesn't need to wait for the perfect moment. It just needs a willing heart. The next day, Daniel went to work expecting to be fired. His boss met him at the door with a scowl. "You were late again, Harris," the boss said. Daniel sighed. "I know. I had to help someone." A police officer was, but before he could finish, his boss interrupted. "I saw it on the news." "That was you, wasn't it?" Daniel nodded slowly. His boss's expression softened. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. "Take the day off, on me." It was the first time in months Daniel felt seen, like all the struggles he'd been through actually led to something good. Over the next week, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Officer Carter. He visited the hospital to check on her. She was still recovering, hooked up to machines, her leg in a cast. When he entered the room, she smiled faintly. "You're the guy who saved me," she said. Daniel smiled. "Just happened to be in the right place at the right time." She shook her head slowly. "No. You were meant to be there." They talked for a while. Emily told him she was a single mom too, with a 9-year-old daughter named Ava. She'd been responding to a call when a drunk driver hit her car head-on. She said she thought she was going to die until Daniel showed up. He stayed with her for nearly an hour, talking about life, loss, and the crazy way kindness connects strangers. Before he left, Emily said something that stuck with him: "You didn't just save my life, you reminded me that good people still exist." A few weeks later, Daniel received a call from the local police department. They asked him to come to the station. Nervous, he put on his cleanest shirt and drove over. When he walked in, he saw the entire precinct standing in a line: officers, detectives, even the chief. And in the middle stood Officer Emily Carter, still on crutches but smiling brighter than ever. The chief stepped forward and said, "Mr. Harris, on behalf of the entire department, we want to thank you for your bravery. You didn't just save one of our own, you reminded us of the power of human kindness." He handed Daniel a framed certificate of honor. The room erupted in applause. Daniel tried to speak but couldn't find the words. Tears welled in his eyes as he shook Emily's hand. She whispered, "My daughter wants to meet you. You're her hero too." In the months that followed, Daniel and Emily's families grew close. Their daughters became best friends, spending weekends together playing in the park. Daniel and Emily often shared coffee and laughter, both healing from their past losses. One chilly December evening, the four of them went ice skating downtown. As they watched their girls laugh and fall and get back up, Emily turned to Daniel and said, "You know, kindness doesn't just save lives. Sometimes, it rebuilds them." Daniel smiled. "Yeah. I guess it does." What nobody knew then was that Emily's story and Daniel's act of kindness spread across the entire state. News channels ran the story. People called Daniel a hero. But he never saw himself that way. He always said, "I just did what anyone should do." The police department even started a new community initiative called